Good evening, everyone. How you doing tonight? Welcome to the North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. My name is Tom, and I'm the host of the show. So glad you could all come out tonight and witness a good podcast. So if anybody wants to know that one of the pictures of the trees, the three like structures with the three bends, that's actually one of my pictures from one of my areas and local areas in North Carolina. So yeah, that is one of my actual investigation areas. If anybody was wondering. So I do boots on the ground when I get time to go out in the woods. So and also hunting season's coming, so it's going to start cooling down, and it's more viable to get in the woods without getting torn up by fleas, whatever else gets out in the woods. Mosquitoes, all that, ticks. So yeah. So without further ado, we got our guest Al Santariga. My previous guest had to reschedule for next week because he has no internet signal in Vancouver Island out in the Alaska area. So yeah, he's on a boat, no internet. So tonight we got Al Santariga, the Goomba, the godfather of Squatch, the Don himself. He's going to talk about some energy cleansing negative spirits.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey,
Thanks
Al.
for having me, Tom. I greatly appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you coming on again. We always do good stuff together. I like when I have you on because you kind of take it out of the realm of cryptids and you can spread it out because you got experience with everything. You got the cryptids, the UFOs, the paranormal, all that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I like to talk about the recent stuff that I did. You know what I mean? Stuff that I haven't really spoke about yet. Maybe once or twice, but not really. With your audience. And the first one I want to start off with is an oldie but a goodie because it totally blew my mind. And so I got a call from a friend of mine when we first got started doing this stuff. Good for when I was growing up, my friends, the group of guys I hung out with, we were the original Motley crew. All right, there was an Italian guy, an Irish guy, a Polish guy, and a Native American, an Arab guy, a Polak, a Ukrainian. We were the original Motley crew. Jewish guy.
Oh yeah.
And we all kind of stuck together. And Randy was a Native American. Actually, he was Apache. And in school, he was the one who said we should do like a blood brother thing and cut our palms and, we'll call ourselves the Brotherhood and we'll stick together because it was a pretty rough school, and he's like, somebody messes with one of us, they got to mess with all of us. And so that's what we did. And so Randy, gets married, moves away, is living in Georgia. And he calls me up one day and he says, dude, my daughter's got something going on with her. I don't know what's going on with her, but she's waking up with scratches and bruises, and she's having night terrors and terrible dreams and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, okay, let me talk to her, And she's a early 20s, maybe 21 years old at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, let me talk to her. And I'm talking to her, and I was like, well, can you describe what this thing looks like, when you're seeing it, And she says, it's not showing itself to me when I'm awake. It's only showing itself to me in my dreams. So I said, well, and she really couldn't put words to really describe it. So I said, draw me a picture. Maybe I could figure it out because I need to know what I'm going up against to actually come up with a game plan to fight this thing. So she drew me a picture, and I sent you the photographs she drew me, the images she drew me, and it was an evil jinn. Mm-hmm. And it totally blew my mind. Okay, I was like, how the hell did you get an evil jinn attached to you? You're in Georgia. These things, are typically in the Middle East,
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, well, I am dating a Marine, and he just got back from Afghanistan. Not Afghanistan, Iraq. I think it was Iraq. And she goes, maybe that's, and I was like, okay. So now we know how he got here. It was attached to him. He came to see her. Of course, she's a good looking, beautiful young lady. It liked what it seen. It stayed at her house, And so I said, okay, let me do a little research on this. This was before I knew Rosemary Ellen Guiley and all the books she wrote on evil jinns, that came later. So I had to do this on my own. And So I started researching it, and I'm like I said, one of my brothers, my brotherhood from growing up, this we'll call him Robert. Robert was of an Arabic descent. He was from Jordan. So I went to him and I said, dude, um, what do I do here? Who do I, how do I handle this? And he's born here, raised him here. You know what I mean? He's like, my uncle is a cleric. Let me hook you up with him. So I go and I meet his uncle. I go to the mosque and I meet his uncle and I sit down with his uncle and all of these high priests, and I tell them what's going on. And they say, okay, you have to go down to this part of New York where there's like an Arab community and you got to get all these different charms, bring them back here. So I go and I go get these different charms. Each charm did something else. One was for protection, one was for banishing and all. So I bring them back to this guy. He blesses them all. They do their ceremony. Yeah, and this is what she drew. And I mean,
there's a picture. Yeah, right there. You showed it to me.
And she even said it had tattoos on its arm that said Sultan and whatever the other thing was. Like we never really figured it out. And so I get all these charms, and I go to meet the cleric again, and the high priest and all those guys, and they bless it. They do all this stuff, and they tell us what to do. And I tell Randy, I said, okay, this particular charm you have to put in the four corners of the room to banish him out of the room. Let's make the room a safe zone. This particular charm she has to wear all the time, because the minute she goes outside, it's going to reattach itself to her, And then he had to go in Georgia to an Arabic community and buy some stuff too. He needed like some kind of incense and stuff to burn. It's almost like a sage, right, or what you call it. Yeah, and so they did the ceremony. They opened up the windows. They got this thing. They were able to get it out of the house. She put on the charms. They sealed the room. That her particular room was like the one he was more worried about, just sealing her room than the whole house, because he wanted her bedroom to be her safe zone. Mm-hmm. And when she went in bed at night, she would be safe. She wouldn't wake up with bruises or scratches or anything.
And salt used? Did they use any salt? Because I've heard salt kind of helps cleanse, areas or kind of like a borderline around, perimeter.
Yes, they did. They did use salt.
Himalayan salt.
I don't remember, honestly. It was a long time ago. I don't remember what particular salt I bought, but I know it was something that they purify. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's whatever. Like, I usually use kosher sea salt from the Dead Sea, but this was some kind of Arabic salt that they purify, for their religion and all this stuff. So, and we were able to get it out, and we were able to seal her room, and she was able to wear that necklace. And long story short, we resolved it, and it was just, like mind-boggling. It was just mind-boggling to think like something like that could attach itself. Did the Marine know what it was attached to him? Steve, the Marine was in denial. He didn't want to admit that something was attached to him, but she told me when he got back, he was definitely acting different, and he wasn't the same person who left to go to war, but she thought maybe it had, all the deaths he's seen and the fighting had changed him.
He figured the PTSD, right? PTSD might have messed him up.
But it wasn't. But it really wasn't that. It was this thing that was attached to him, and once it left him to stay with her, he became his old self again. Right. So it was just crazy. And then he went out and he got all the stuff that she had so that it wouldn't come back and attach itself to him, because he was still in the service and he was going to get redeployed, somewhere down the road. He was only back for, leave, and he didn't want to bring another one back with him,
Yeah.
So he went and got all the charms and everything.
Yeah.
And
go cleanse yourself. Don't come back and bring another attachment with you, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It's very intimidating when you go into these communities and you don't speak the language and you don't understand the language, and you have to ask people, for help, and you don't know if they're really going to give you true advice to help you, or if they're going to screw you over. You know what I mean?
They can give you negative energy,
right?
More shit
But
back.
I was lucky enough to have like one of my best friends, uncle, advise me, you know what I mean? And apparently we mentioned his name down in Georgia, and apparently he must be, very high up in the hierarchy of the clerics around the country, because they knew who he was. And once my friend mentioned this guy's name, they just like, oh, come, we'll take care of you. They brought him inside the mosque, and they was like, they didn't mess around with him and everything. So I was just very fortunate to have a good friend like that at that right time. And it's just it's crazy growing up in the city, and you hang out with all these different guys from all these different communities, all these different religions. There was Christians, and it was Jews, and it was Arabs, and we all got together. We're all best friends, and you never know when you got to lean on somebody's religion for something or another.
Yeah,
and it just worked out for us.
That's helpful though, because if you need one thing from another thing to understand what's coming around, well, whether the origin of the entity that's bothering you, you kind of have something to fall back on. So depending on if it's like Christian or Muslim or on the Jewish side or even on the native side. So
absolutely,
all
yeah.
Yeah,
like when we were growing up, and like I said, Randy was a Apache from out west. I forgot if it was from Arizona or where, but he was the one who introduced me in with like the Wendigos and the Skinwalkers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because he lived in his father was a doctor, and they lived in a mansion, and his house was haunted, bro. His house was haunted. You know what I mean? And as kids, we were like, investigating it like ghost hunters. We didn't even know what we were doing, but we were still trying to investigate it and stuff. And he had like 10 brothers. It was always 1 million people in the house, and it was chaos all the time. But so I just wanted to touch on that. I seen Antonio talking about it today on one of his videos, and I thought, it's really been a long time since I discussed it, and I know nobody on your audience has ever heard me discuss it. And I just thought it was something that needed to be discussed, because these entities, they come from all walks of life, whether it's a Jewish Dybbuk box or an Arab, jinn, or, just a Christian demon or whatever. Basically they're all the same things. You know what I mean? And you need the right tools for the job. And I can't explain that hard enough to tell people, when you're going to do something, you need to know what you're dealing with, and you need to get the right tools for the job.
Oh yeah, you got to do it right. I mean, if you're not doing it right, you're not going to expel what you got to deal with. 100%.
No, you'll just piss it off. Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to come back.
I just want to say thank you to Chris Reinhardt for the shirt. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Nice.
He sent me this shirt for my birthday, and I just want to say thank you to Chris for that. But
it's a big foot on that shirt.
It's a big foot with an alien in it, and on the bottom it says, "I hate people." I'm supposed to do. I got invited to do a speaker thing at one of the local libraries. You know what I mean? They called me up and they said, "Hey, listen, we'd like to have you come here and talk about Bigfoot. Would you be interested?" So I was like, "Sure, I'll definitely, I'll come and I'll and I'll do a little. I'll talk on it. I don't know if it's going to be a monthly thing or once on a blue moon, but so I said okay, and I think I don't know if I should wear this shirt or not. I may offend the people at the library if I said I hate people, but
Wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, it's not you; it's a shirt. It's just a shirt, just graphic on a shirt design.
I'm probably going to wear my New York State Sasquatch organization shirt because that's what they want me to discuss Bigfoot and Dogman and cryptids. You know what I mean? More cryptids than anything else. So I'll probably wear a cryptid shirt and not, I mean, this is a cryptid shirt, but you got to have a good sense of humor to do this. And I don't want to offend anybody at the library because I want to get invited back. You don't
want to get, disavowed from the library and get booted.
Yeah, because then what happened.
You get booted on Facebook enough.
It'll travel to all the libraries, and then nobody. Oh, stay away from that guy. He's got issues, But all the crazy stuff happened as well. Oh, okay, and so basically, that's just the one thing I wanted to start off with the gin stuff, and then I figured we'd discuss one of the cleansing. I did 2 cleansings recently. Okay. One was I was a house with 2 portals in it, and one was a house that had all kinds of crazy activity going on, and the woman was sending me videos every night from her surveillance cameras of ghostly apparitions in the yard looking in, little creatures going up and down her steps, going from the first floor to the second floor. Looked like there was a dog man in the woods looking at her house, at her condo, and these other little weird little creatures that were up in the trees. They were like kind of like half raccoon and half something else. It's just weird stuff. And she actually took a photograph. She was walking her dog in the woods, and she was taking a selfie of her and her dog, as women do. And there was an image that looked like a Minuteman behind her with a long coat and his rifle in his hand. Yeah. So she calls me up and she says, "Hey Al, now I had cleansed this woman's house at another location. She used to live at a different location, and I had gone there and cleansed her house at the other." So she called me up. She moved from a condo to a townhouse. She upgraded, and she's like, "I got all this crazy stuff going on here, and could you come by?" And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And she's telling me about all that, and then she says, like, and ever since we moved in here, my husband has changed. He's nasty. He's mean. He's abusive, and yada yada yada. And I'm like, well, what do you think happened? And she's, I don't know, but I think he's having an affair on me, and yada, yada, yada. So we went in, and I did a preliminary investigation. I went down, and I took some readings and stuff, and there's some crazy stuff going on in her house. Like, her husband found a weight set on the street, right? A bench and weights and all kinds of stuff. And he brought him home, started working out in the garage with him. And when I went over to the weight, I told this woman, I was like, you really shouldn't be bringing stuff home that you don't know what attached, because there's energy attached to it. And maybe the person who had these weights was all steroid out, and it was, roid raging and left his energy. And when I went over to those weights, and they're just barbells and steel, the iron, the EMF meter went through the roof.
Oh, shit.
The meter went through the roof. And I was like, she goes, "How was that possible?" I was like, she goes, "How is that possible?" I said, "It's not possible unless somebody left some negative energy on this, or some energy on this." So then I walk over to this big mural of a gypsy she's got hanging over her fireplace, and this picture. And the reason she has this picture over the fireplace, because this gypsy woman looks exactly like her mother. You know what I mean? And her mother just passed, and this photograph, this painting of a gypsy woman, again, the EMF is going through the roof. So then I go upstairs, and I'm going through, and husband's got all these little trinkets he picks up like all over the place. He finds something interesting, and all these little things they're all attached. And even she had one of her mother's wigs in the house, and her mother's wig had energy attached to it.
Yeah.
When I tell you the EMF meter went through the chart on a wig that's on a dummy head, So, and I know her husband. He's like the nicest guy in the world. He's the calmest person in the world, and yada yada yada. He's like, there's no way that this guy could be the same guy she's describing. Well,
right.
I meet him, and his energy is like, whoa! I just like he had this energy, like wanted to push me through a wall,
You felt it from the get go.
Yeah, well, it was, the house was off. Okay, there was no doubt about it. The house was off, and that I could handle myself. That's not an issue dealing with stuff like that. Long as there's not anything dark or demonic, I can handle negative energy. But he had energy to him, like a monster, man. He was like raw, So I said, I called up Miss Aida, and I said, I don't know what's going on here, but I think there's more here than meets the eye. And her husband was coming home with all these little charms and trinkets and weird stuff. And I thought it was like all negative stuff. I didn't know what they were. These are symbols I've never seen before. So I called Miss Aida, and she's like, this guy's having an affair on her, right? And I was like, I don't know. That's what she claims. He goes, oh yeah, this guy's having an affair on her. And she goes, all these trinkets that this woman thinks are like Santariga, demonic stuff, you know what I mean? She says they're actually protection trinkets for him.
Really?
But she goes, and the reason why she's giving him all these trinkets is that this woman put a love spell on her husband. Now, this is the second time I used Miss Aida for somebody who had a love spell put on him. You know what I mean? And, it took a lot for me to swallow the first time. The guy told me he had a love spell. But after I talked to Miss Aida, I said, okay. So then, we sit this guy down and we say, listen, she says, this is what you have to do. If you want to break this spell, you want to keep your marriage and your wife, this is what you have to do. And she had a list of stuff as long as my leg. You know what I mean? Stuff I've never heard of before. And this guy had to do this ritual for like 2 weeks straight, every single day. And just to do this ritual, Tom, was very daunting. You know what I mean? It would be very easy for someone to say, oh, screw this, I'm not doing this bullshit.
A lot out of it, right?
Yeah. But he did it. And when he did it, it was like all of a sudden his aura was shining. You know what I mean? Like Miss Aida said, okay, I can see his aura now. It's not black anymore. We broke this love spell. And, so everything should be okay now. And we can start working on getting all these weird creatures out of the house. And no sooner do we break the love spell on this dude, he goes to work, and the girl he's fooling around with works with him. Now he doesn't want anything to do with her anymore. Right? So listen, sweetheart, I'm sorry, but I'm married. We can't do this anymore. And she's pissed because now the spell is broken. She doesn't have him anymore.
Right. You don't have another grip.
Right. And I'm telling you, man, it's real. It happens. I've seen it twice. I know it sounds crazy, but believe me when I tell you it's true. This girl got so pissed off that she put a curse on him. So now we have to start all over again, a whole different ritual.
A whole nother regimen.
With all kinds of stuff. I don't have all the notes that I had to take for these because Miss Aida gave me like a ton of notes. You know what I mean? I don't have them here with me to read through everything, because if I had to read through everything that we did, I would be here for an hour just reading. You know what I mean? So we had to go through a whole nother ritual again, 14 days to cleanse. And this one was harder than the first one. You know what I mean?
Well, curse is
because
worse than a spell, right? A curse is like
yeah,
double
definitely
strength.
deeper. Yeah, absolutely. And so we did that. We did that for 2 weeks, 14 days straight, and we finally broke that. Okay. Then Miss Aida told me, told him what he needed. His wife went out and bought all this stuff on Amazon. Again, a lot of different kinds of metals and stuff to wear to protect, to ward off. You know what I mean, and to purify and stuff like that. So because he's got to see this woman every day at work.
Oh
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And the minute she finds out that this guy's, by now everything should be going south for this guy. You know what I mean? Once they put that curse on you, you all of a sudden your bad luck goes from bad to worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and believe me, it's true. It is absolutely true. You go from bad luck. If you think you got bad luck now, man, you don't know how bad it can get. Okay. And no, I swear to God. And so she had to give him trinkets and medallions and stuff to wear. That when he goes to work, she can't put anything else on him because he's got to see her every single day. She works in the office. He works out on delivery, and so he's got to deal with her every day. She gives him his like working orders, So we broke the curse. We broke the love spell.
Damn.
I mean, and this takes a lot out of you when you're dealing with people with all these different spells. No matter how much you protect yourself, no matter what you do, it drains you. It physically drains you.
It drains you to the point where, like, you're probably weak yourself, and you got to kind of rehabilitate yourself after doing all that.
We did an investigation one time at an insane asylum, and I had my psychic read the energy at the insane asylum. And after she read the insane asylum, she told me she had to stay in bed for 2 weeks to regain all her energy, And I didn't understand that, at that time, but I understand it now because when you go and you do these cleansings and you put forth the positive energy to drive these negative energies out. And I went there, and now, Miss Aida's a job was done. You know what I mean? She got rid of now she said, Al, the rest of this stuff you can handle. It's, you got this. You know what I mean? She goes, I wouldn't let you do it alone if I didn't think you couldn't, but you got this. I said, okay. So I went there. And again, we start with the saging, and I had the quartz, the salt, that they put the salt down. And I got this stuff that I call aqua de Dio, the water of God. It's something that I make up myself. It has all kinds of protection and purification oils in it. You know what I mean? And I sprayed. Not only did I spray the base of her house with it, you can't use it on walls or anything because it does have all the oils in it. So you can't, So I sprayed the base of her house, but then I sprayed the base of her yard to push all of these crazy entities out into the woods. Yeah. And so we pushed them all out into the woods. And then I told her what she had to do. She told me about some specific stones that we needed to get and have them charged under a full moon and all this other stuff. And certain ones had to be charged during the day under the sun. Certain ones had to be charged at night under a moon. It's crazy. And we had to seal. She had this one wall that was attached to the next townhouse, and I was afraid this stuff was going to come right through that wall and back into the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we did was we got some holy water and some kosher sea salt, and we it's basically a very mild mix, and we salted all the walls from top to bottom. We let it dry, build a nice film, and then we wiped everything off, and we sealed that whole wall that faced the townhouse next door, so that nothing. And then we put stones on all the corners of every room that were attached to that wall to keep anything out. And man, when I left that place, you're talking about 14 days for each ritual. You know what I mean? And then another day, solid 10 hours of cleansing and sealing and banishing. You know what I mean?
And you don't charge for that, right? You don't charge.
No, I don't charge anybody anything. You know what I mean? I'll take donations for any of the material I have to buy out of my pocket. If they want to reimburse me for that, I'll take donations for that. You know what I mean?
You got to stay in a hotel. Somebody wants to, buy your room for the night. You'll do that.
Or somebody wants to pay for my gas if I got to travel, 50 miles or whatever. Yeah, but I don't ask because the reason I got into this, honestly, when I started with the BPS team, was to help people. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to be there for people who didn't know where to turn. You know what I mean?
Well, it's in your family genetics, in your family history. I mean, your whole family, it's in your bloodline, pretty much. Like when you talk, how you came to be, like your great grandmother, your family, your brother was into that parapsychology. Your grandmother was great grandmother was in, she could see things and clairvoyant and whatever.
Yeah, I believe my grandmother was a white witch, on my father's side.
Yeah.
My mother was the one who had the premonitions.
Right.
And my aunt, Adriana, she was a white witch as well. And I believe she got that from her mother. And because over the years, I've had a couple of girls put bad mojo on me, for one reason or another when I was younger. And every time I felt like my energy was drained or my aura, my aunt could see immediately. And I was always over at my relative's house. We all lived in the same neighborhood. So everybody was in and out of everybody's apartment all the time. And she would see me and she said, "What happened to you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Your aura's, dark." She goes, "What? How do you feel?" I said, "I feel okay. A little tired, but I feel okay." She goes, No, sit down." And she would do a ritual, to get the evil eye off me, and she did it. She did it to me at least 3 times. I'm sure she did it to my cousin Dino about a dozen times. You know what I mean? But
I get it. I get it because my family was from Lodi, New Jersey, and you had the parents lived upstairs. The next generation lived downstairs. It was a big like a townhouse in the city. But the one family lived on the bottom floor, one in the middle, one on the top, and they were all related. They were just different, family on a family tree side. You had the cousins, the sisters, the mother, all of them lived in the same kind of area, the same building.
Man, when we were growing up as kids, we lived in these six-story tenements, walk-up tenements, and everybody in like the first 5 buildings were all related or all paisans from the same town in Italy. And everybody would meet on the fire escapes and have conversations across the yard to the next building and stuff like that. I remember as a 5-year-old kid sleeping on a fire escape, at night because it was cool,
You didn't need a phone. You just yelled out the window back then,
No, everybody just you go on a fire escape. What do you have it tonight? You need anything? Like my uncle lived below us, and him and my father had their own wine cellar in the basement. They built their own wine cellar because they were carpenters, so they built a room and they put a wine press in it. Yeah. So I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Good vino.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
That wasn't for Sunday dinner only. That was only for the Sunday pasta sauce. You got the good vino.
One time, my cousin John, we're hanging out at my cousin John's house playing guitar, and his father was the one who used to make the wine, and he had 2 gallons of red wine under the sink, and his father told him, "Don't forget to burp it. Once in a while, you got to burp it because so the gases build up, And we were playing our guitars and we were up drinking beers and we're partying and, listening to Southern rock and all this. All of a sudden, he had this white kitchen. All of a sudden, we hear boom. We thought the oven blew because it was a gas oven. both gallons of wine exploded at the same time because he never burped them, and the
Oh.
whole kitchen was purple.
It was
And
purple.
we were laughing our
Like
asses off, and
bloodbath.
his wife was crying like, "Who's gonna clean this up now?" Yeah, and we're sitting there laughing hysterical, like, "Oh shit, your whole kitchen is purple." But just crazy stuff like that growing up with my cousins and stuff. But so I ended up doing that townhouse, and we were able to cleanse it and push everything out, with the help of Miss Aida, and I thank her very much. And then I got a call from a good friend of mine, another good friend of mine growing up. He moved up here and doesn't live too far from me.
Real quick, I got 2 questions for you.
Go ahead.
Story.
Have you heard of anyone buying yes and no. I know a lot of people in the paranormal that I do investigations with have all bought some antiques that have energy attached to them. As a matter of fact, the guys I know from the Hoover House out in Pennsylvania, who have the dancing tables and stuff that do the table tipping, they're always buying antiques that have energies attached to them. But they're very lucky they haven't brought anything into any of their hotels with anything negative attached to it. Question does the time. Let's go with the questions. Okay. Does the type or kind of salt matter? Yes, it depends on the faith you're working with at the time. It's ingrained into the religion, and if you don't use the salt that's prescribed in their rituals, then they feel like it's not going to work. So the best thing to do is just, buy what they recommend, and I believe all salt will work. You know what I mean? But it's a psychological thing too. So as much as it is a religious thing. What else?
That's it.
Okay.
There was just 2.
Okay.
Carlito, what's up? The topic was we're talking about paranormal cleansing. Al was talking about his cleansing of his last two last places he's cleansed. Negative energy.
Mm-hmm. So a good friend of mine calls me up, and this dude lives in this big house. I mean, it's humongous. Okay. So I go to his house, and I go there, and I walk in, and as soon as I walk in the house, the energy is chaotic. It's just like my heart is beating like 1,000 miles an hour. I'm feeling this chaotic energy all around me. And, he's telling me about how the drawers open up and the doors bang, and they hear banging in the wall. They hear walking going up and down the steps, and all of this stuff. And his kids hear it. And he's an indigo child, and his son is an indigo child. So his mother and his grandmother were both psychics, and it kind of passed down the line through them. So I'm sitting at the kitchen table having a cup of coffee, doing a baseline read and checking everything out. And the energy is just crazy. And I turn to his wife and I go, "Your energy is chaotic. You really need to do something to bring your energy down. I think all of the poltergeist activity that you guys are experiencing in this house is coming from you." And it's crazy because even when she's not there, she still generates this chaotic poltergeist activity. Really? Because her energy is so strong. Yeah. And her son, and what's ever there is attacking the women in the house. She's being attacked. His daughters are being attacked. His son's girlfriend is being attacked. Now, soon as he called me and he told me that he had stuff going on, and I don't claim to be psychic by any stretch of the imagining. Anybody who knows me knows that I get gut feelings, and I'm sensitive to energies, but I don't claim it.
It's like my wife. My wife gets a gut feeling. I listen to her. You know, she said a couple of nights ago. She said we're going to go to Scarowinds, which is like, you know, Six Flags got the Fright Fest.
Okay.
By me in the Carolinas, we have Carowinds, and it's like Six Flags, but it's Carowinds. And in the fall, they call it Scarowinds, and they have like Fright Fest. They got the characters out. Well, Saturday night was the second night they opened, and we're supposed to go. And she's like, I got a bad feeling by not going. We didn't go. And on the news, a whole damn bunch of people went crazy, and kids fighting, and guns were involved, and people were fleeing the park, and it got really bad. So I was like, well, good thing I listened to my wife, because when she has a gut feeling, I listen to her. So yeah, I get it.
Thank you, Lori, baby.
You got the same birthday. You got the same kind of.
Oh yeah, that's right. We have the same birthday. Yeah. But you know, if you're gonna go to those haunted house attractions for Halloween, folks, do yourself a favor. Put salt in your pocket, salt in your shoes. Protect yourself. Sage before, sage after. Because I know a lot of people who go to those things bring dark stuff home with them because of that energy that they're trying to create. Yeah, that's scared energy is attracting negative stuff. So do yourself a favor and protect yourself before you go in, and then cleanse yourself before you get in your car and drive away. Cleanse yourself. Yeah. So anyway, I got the feeling that somebody played with a Ouija board. Okay. And I was like, oh, I don't like this. I got I feeling it's like played with a, he's got like three, he's got 2 daughters and a son. I'm thinking one of these kids played with a Ouija board, And then he says, well, we have in the back of the house, in the backyard, we have a cemetery. It was what do you call it? Not a Civil War, Revolutionary War cemetery.
Yeah.
And the family who owned all this property here, like this the giant development, it was the one giant farm, and they're all buried in that cemetery. And I was like, okay, I'll take a walk down there, see what I feel. But I don't say anything to them about Ouija board. This is what I'm feeling. So I couldn't use my psychic at the time because Cindy was going through a back surgery and she couldn't do it. So I called Katie Turner from Canada. Katie is phenomenal. Katie is so good. She's scary good. She makes me nervous when I talk to her because I swear to God, she's going to see me in my youth when I wasn't a nice guy, And so I asked her for a favor, and she said, of course, Al, no problem. And we did a walkthrough together, and she started spitting stuff out. She told them, I see spirit of a little boy here. You guys lost a child at a young age. I didn't even know that, And she's like, yeah, our firstborn, he died when he was like, 3 years old. He got sick and died or whatever. She goes, yeah, he's still here. He's okay. He plays with your granddaughters, and he plays upstairs. So if you hear running around, it sounds like little feet. It's him. Don't worry about it. And Katie turns to her and says, your energy is all through the roof. You have to calm down. She says, I want you to make a circle out in the front, out in the yard with quartz crystal stones facing east. And I want you to meditate every day for a half hour, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. She says, because we have to bring your energy down because you're creating a lot of the poltergeist activity. And she's like, okay. And then Katie tells them both about issues they have physically, health-wise, and says, you have to get both of these things looked at right away. Don't waste any time. So then Katie says, somebody played with a Ouija board, but it wasn't from this house. It was from 2 houses over.
Oh, so that moved to their house, whatever came with the Ouija board.
And she said, and they didn't do it in their house. They did it at a cemetery. She goes, you got a cemetery on your property? Oh, and they're like, yeah. And she goes, they played with it at the cemetery, and they opened up a portal, she says. Yeah. And because she can, again, like Katie's phenomenal. She's telling this guy, you're an indigo child, and your son's an indigo child, and your grandmother was from Scotland, and she was a psychic. And like, they're freaking out because nobody knows all this crap. And Katie's like, boom, 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 boom.
She's banging it out, right?
Oh, she's banging it out. And she's like, the portal was opened in the cemetery, but it came to your house because of your energy. There's a colonel here. She says, I see a colonel. He was a military guy in the war, the Revolutionary War. He owned this property. He's in the basement. He doesn't like anybody in the basement. That's his area. And if anybody goes down there, and then my friend was telling her about how his father was staying there and he was living in the basement. And father came upstairs and says, "Listen, I'd rather sleep in the car down there, you know."
That's
And
crazy because I get my house in New Jersey before I came down here was haunted, and the basement between the bathroom and the basement, those are the two worst spots of the house. The bathroom's where the guy shot himself in the head.
oh
And
God,
the basement was like where he pretty much slept. So his energy was really strong, I guess, in those two spots because those were the two areas of that house where you always felt like on edge and really heavy, and the hair on the back of your neck stood up. And it felt, I mean, you could ask Lori, it felt freaking crazy in that house.
yeah.
Nuts.
And then she said, and then he told me his brother moved in for a little while. His brother said the same thing. His brother says, "I'm not sleep. I'll sleep in the recliner up here. I'm not sleeping downstairs." And the basement is finished. It's absolutely gorgeous basement. I mean, it's huge, and he's got 2 rooms off the basement that are like the size of bedrooms and stuff. And I went down there and I sat down there in the dark to feel the energy, and I felt like whatever was there was watching me from a doorway to my room. I'm getting goosebumps talk about it. It was watching me from the door and didn't want to come out and, talk to me or face me,
Really?
I felt like, I guess it must have felt like my energy was just as strong as his energy or whatever. So then Katie says, "Let's go upstairs." And these people, when I tell you this house is humongous, it's humongous, okay? Mm-hmm. And these people have 6 million mirrors all over the house. And
well, that's not good, right?
I'm not a mirror guy, okay? It takes a lot for me to point the camera at a mirror and take a picture. I've never had a bad experience with a mirror, but it's just something about mirrors that freak me out, right?
Aren't mirrors almost like a portal?
Yes.
A portal?
And I told him, I said, "What the hell is going on with all these goddamn mirrors?" You know what I mean? Because, we like mirrors. No. So we go upstairs and we walk into the bedroom and I get knocked to my knees.
Really?
The energy in the bedroom just knocks me. I have to sit down on the bed. I mean, my knees just buckle. And I was like, and I got Katie on the phone because we're walking through. She's doing it like a FaceTime, right? She's doing it live. And she goes, Al, you have to get up. There's 2 full-length mirrors in the corner facing each other. She goes, they created a portal. You have to turn those mirrors away from each other.
Oh,
so I go over and I said, "Well, how do I know which one is the portal?" She goes, "If you take your finger and you put it up to the glass, whichever one has space between your finger and the glass is the one with the portal." So I did that. And not his, but her mirror had the portal in it. So I had to turn them opposite way. So we knew. And she goes, "Go into the bathroom. I feel like there's energy." And I go into the bathroom and the whole bathroom is nothing but one giant mirror, right?
Oh, crap.
And she goes, this whole wall is a portal. I put my finger to the mirror and there's space between it. She goes, "We got to seal this whole room and we got to seal that mirror and we got to get the colonel out of the house and this, that, and the other thing." And then she says, "I'm seeing a gun. There's a gun in this house that killed somebody." And these people, we live upstate. Everybody's got guns, everybody's hunters, whatever. And then my friend goes, "Is it a new gun or an old gun?" Because he's like, "I don't know anybody in the house that killed anybody." And she says, "No, it's an old antique gun." He goes, "Oh, I found that gun in the yard. When they dug up the backyard to put in the pool, they found an old musket gun in the dirt buried. And he put it over the fireplace." And she said, "You got to get that gun out of the house. It's got debt attached to it because
it probably killed a bunch of people if it's an old musket."
Yeah, and she said it killed somebody, but she said it wasn't used in the war. She said this was something like somebody shot somebody in the back out of spite or felt like they were, somebody screwed them over. You know what I mean? It was like an eye for an eye kind of thing. And she says that's why it's holding on to bad energy. She says, "Okay, I'll get rid of that thing." So Katie walked through the whole house and she says, "Okay, Al, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to get, yada, yada, yada." So I went out. I bought everything I needed to get. They bought everything that she told them to get. And then I went back a following weekend and we started up in the attic And I started with burning sage,
Mm-hmm.
and then because he told me, oh, we cleansed the house once, but it didn't work. I said, well, did you open the windows? Did you open the doors? He's like, no. Why? I said, you got to let this thing out. I said, you probably just made it go hide in between the walls. So
Yeah,
I
probably.
start up in the attic, and none of my guys can make it, so I'm working by myself. So I tell my friend, I said, look, I'm putting you and your son to work today because I can't do this giant house by myself. I'll be here for like a week.
Right.
So I put them to work, and each individual room, we open up the windows. We would sage the room, then we'd hit it with frankincense, then we hit it with myrrh, then we hit it with holy water, holy oil, and then salt in between all the door jambs, all the walkways, the door jambs, and the window jambs. And we did that every single room. And we worked our way down to the basement. We got down to the basement. I swear to God, as we were working in the basement, we started on one side of the basement, the north side, and we worked south. And I swear to God, I seen a shadow run around the door, and he had like a door that opened up to the backyard, like you go up the steps, like a trap door. And I seen the shadow run around the walls into that room and then out the door.
Shit.
So I got goosebumps telling you about it. So now we do this. Wow. Now we get outside. And Katie says another thing. Katie says that I never heard of before. She says, instead of using salt on the outside of the house, you have to use red brick. You have to grind down red brick and put it around the house as a binder.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, why? She says, because the way the brick is made, it holds, it works great as a binder because it won't wash away from the rain and the snow. Now, this particular guy just happened to have 10,000 red bricks in his driveway because he had redone his patio. Right. He took the bricks out and he put something else down. Pavers, right? Yeah. And so we grounded down bricks for like 3 days, right? Grounding bricks.
They're made in like a clay bricked ovens with old school.
They're baked, right? They're made
to, last forever.
Forever,
yeah. Made in the foundry, so yeah.
So he's putting the red brick dust around the base of the house. I'm hitting it with the Aqua de Dio. His daughter pulls up. She got 2 little girls in the car. She pulls up. She's like, I'll just run in and give her brother something. The kids are sleeping in the car. Okay. She runs in. She gives her brother something. She comes out and she says, what did you guys do to the house? And we go, why? She goes, the house feels different. She goes, Dad, it feels totally different than, this morning. And I was like, well, I can't feel the difference because I've been there. Right. And the energy is just all over me. It's like the residue is all over me. I'm drained. So I go, well, that's that at least she felt it. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and left. So we did that. Now I can't get out of there fast enough. After we do all that, I jump in my car and I leave. I'm halfway home. He calls me. He's like, dude, you forgot your bag with all your shit in it. And I was like, oh no, I got to go back tomorrow. I'm drained to the hell. So I go back the next day and I walk in the foyer. And I'm trying to feel if the house is lighter. I'm trying to see if it's lighter. And again, I feel like I'm so saturated with the negative stuff that we removed that I can't tell the difference. So I pick up my bag, I sit down, have a cup of coffee, bullshit with him, yada, yada, yada. I pick up my bag, I leave. He calls me up and he says, I got a playroom upstairs, like it's like it used to be a dining room, but he had 2 dining rooms, right? So he turned one into a playroom for his granddaughters. He's got a Barbie tent set up in the playroom. Oh, wow, and for the little kids, right? The 2 little granddaughters. Now the granddaughters won't go in that room. They won't play in the Barbie tent. They say there's monsters in that room. They're deathly afraid of that room. He says, as a matter of fact, when they walk in the house at night, they hold each other's hands. And these 2 kids look like the little blonde girl from the Grinch, right?
Yeah, Cindy Lou Who.
Cindy Lou Who. Yeah, they look just like Cindy Lou Who. I swear to God, right? And they hold each other's hands and they look around. And then they make the grandfather put all the lights on in all the house. And then only if somebody comes with them will they go in the playroom to play.
Right.
So he
Yeah.
calls me up. He says, "Hey, my daughter came over with the grandkids the other night. They walked in the house, holding each other. They looked around and they turned to him and they said, 'Pop, Pop, the house is different.' And they ran off into the playroom and started playing in the Barbie doll house." And he goes, "That's all the validation I need." I go, "Dude, you don't know how happy you just made me, because those kids are so wide open. They see shit. They know there's shit there. So for them to feel like it was that safe for them that they could just run off into that house, into that playroom and play without anyone. Oh yeah, it just made me feel so good.
The monsters are gone for them.
Yeah,
So
the monster's gone. Yeah, I was like, there's no better validation than that. You heard of
simulation
an experience? No, I have never have. No. How do you know it's a simulation? If you're experiencing it and you never experienced it before, how do you know it's a simulation and not a real experience? The spirits. Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's like skulls across.
I've went through this already. I'm just going back to the question because I said I'd get back to his question after you briefed that last the last cleansing you've done. That's pretty intense that you said you did that. And did you feel drained after that though? After you did all that? Were you drained?
I felt drained for about a week. So I talked to a friend of mine who's a metaphysical person, and he told me that he told me what I needed to do to be able to do the cleansings and not get my energy drained, and that I was actually, technically I did it right, but I did it wrong because I got myself drained. He said, if you would have done it this way, your energy would always be high and it could never drain you. So now I know how to do it technically the right way. I mean, what I did actually worked, on both incidences, actually on all three of them. But I mean, the last two were just draining, absolutely draining. My friend called me up like a week later and it's like, dude, you got to come over for coffee, and cake and this, that, and the other thing, and I was like, dude, I got to be honest with you. I love you to death, but I don't want to go near your house for a long time.
Yeah,
like,
man, you did enough in that house.
I was there.
Energy in there.
The house was so, Tom, when I tell you the house was so big, I was there for like 12 hours. And I had
10,000 square feet house or something.
And I had him and his son helping me. Imagine if I was doing it alone,
It would have been 2 days straight.
Oh yeah, it would have definitely been a weekend thing. Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about it. But
you would have been, you've been recouping for like a month if you did it yourself.
I mean, it was draining, and like I said, I protect myself. I always feel like I go above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to protecting, because I don't want to bring anything home, especially anything negative. But
what are some things people can do to protect themselves? Like you recommend any specific crystals, or obviously sage, but any like specific rocks or crystals or specific quartz to kind of protect yourself?
Yeah.
Put around your house.
Yeah, quartz crystal will energize you, and it'll help you push a negative energy away. But there's two particular stones. It's a white one and a black one. I don't know the name of them offhand.
Amethyst or something? Amethyst.
One is a
black with yellow dots on it or something.
No, it's all pure black. One is for protection, and one is for purification. I believe the white stone is a purification stone, and the black stone is a protection stone. So those two stones you can carry. You can look them up online, and they'll tell you which stone is for what. Yeah. I usually wear a necklace that has a Dominican cross on it that's been blessed by the church. That's gold and silver. But I also wear another necklace right above it that has like 10 different charms on it that I've had, charged and blessed. I I say a white prayer before I go in. I try to protect myself with a bubble of light energy, white. You know what I mean? So nothing can attach itself to me. And I always sage before, and I sage after, and I always sage all my equipment when I'm done. I don't put anything back in my bag that isn't sage, because you're using your equipment to find this stuff. You're using your equipment to communicate with these things. So, of course, we all know about haunted dolls and stuff like that. Well,
Don't go buying dolls at yard sales, especially Raggedy Ann looking like dolls.
Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, so always, if you're going to go out and you're going to use any equipment, even your cell phone, if you're going to use your cell phone on an investigation, hit it with sage before, and then hit it with sage when you're done, because you're using it to make contact and you don't want to take anything home with you. And like I said, those haunted house attractions, I can't tell you how many people I know come back with something negative. And the same thing with like the Halloween. Everybody likes to go through cemeteries on Halloween.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times people have brought dark stuff home with them from cemeteries. So if you're going to do the cemetery tour, or you're going to do haunted house tour, always remember, protect. Salt in your shoes keeps you grounded. Salt in your pants is a purification thing. Stones, sage, anything that will protect you from anything negative, take with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, obsidian. They said obsidian, onyx, and tektite is whatever.
I mean, I you know what? I don't remember off the top of my head. Miss Aida sent me a ton of stones, and you know who else sent me a ton of stones too? Laura.
Laura Greenlee.
Yeah, she sent me a ton of stuff too. She's another one who probably she's a Native American. She sent me a ton of stuff too. Again, purification, and like I said, some stones need to be charged under the sun, and some stones need to be charged under the moon. So what's that?
Simulation thing he was talking about.
The strange red light in my room. Okay. Leave the room. Sure, it was a simulation. I'm not an abduction.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. You're in a room with no door.
Astral projection would do that too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you could definitely astral project and be in a craft or a room that has no doors in it. You know what I mean? Absolutely. It could go a couple of different ways.
Well, Al, we're at about an hour and 2 minutes, so we got to hear your cleansings. That's pretty damn awesome that you got to do that, and live to tell about it too. Even better.
The best thing is I didn't bring anything home.
But you're a tough New Yorker, Italian, and you don't fuck around. So,
well, I've been told many times from a lot of different people who are psychics or Reiki masters or metaphysical, that I have abilities and I have energies, and so I must project some kind of energy that stuff kind of runs away from me, so I mean, I think the only time I ever really had anything attached to me was that one time. I think it was the aliens that attached something negative to me, and you really can't do anything about them. You know what I mean? They get to do whatever they want, but other than that, spiritually wise, I feel pretty secure and pretty protected, So even with somebody posted something today saying if you were hiking in the woods and you came across a Bigfoot and you were face to face, what would you do? And I said, I'd talk to a mental telepathy. You know what I mean? I'd make contact. You
like the one night when the juveniles, you ran at them with your machete, tell them get the hell out of here.
No, the juvenile that ran towards me, it was going to jump right in my arms. I was like, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I mean, so it's my energy, and Brian will tell you too. We can go on investigations and he can go one way and we can go the other, and we both feel like we're chasing stuff around the house, like stuff is dodging us. And it's crazy because like he'll be on the top floor, I'll be in the basement, and we come and we have the same, and when we sit down and we talk about what we feel, it's like exactly the same thing. You know what I mean? So
Nice.
production, a room stimulation. Oh, okay, well, I mean, I don't know how you can verify one from the other, but yeah. So was it a simulation of an abduction? I mean, I don't know. Ant rocks.
Nice guitar.
There goes, there goes whatchamacallit, Chris Reinbeck. Anyway, Reinhardt, I mean. You know, so I'm glad I was able to jump in tonight and help you out. And, you know, it was something interesting, something off the beaten path. We don't usually talk about too much on this show. You know what I mean?
Different. I mean, I'm cryptid and paranormal. You know, North Carolina cryptid and paranormal project. So it's not just cryptids all the time. It's paranormal and whatever comes through. I mean, like you said, you know, a lot of people others say it's all connected one way or another. It all kind of intertwines with each other. So it's not one or the other. It's all you know, entanglement together. So it all goes
amen, brother.
You know?
Yes, absolutely. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Absolutely. It takes a long time to figure that out, but you know, a lot of people. It took me a long time to figure it out, but eventually, the little light bulb went on. I was like, "Okay, I got this." Have I ever had any visions? Is that what he said?
Yeah, I think he said, "Have you had any visions?" I'll let you answer that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Scott, one vision. I had a premonition the night my father died. Just before my brother called me from the hospital to tell me he had passed. I was sitting in my living room. It was New Year's Eve. I was sitting in my living room, and I got a cold chill go up my spine. And when I closed my eyes, I seen my father in his youth at his favorite lake that we used to go to all the time. And I felt like I was in the car driving out, and he was like standing there waving at me. And I turned to my wife, and I was like, and I felt shitty that whole night because I knew he was going to die that night. And we had 2 house parties, and I wasn't going to go to either one of them. But after he came, I turned to my wife and I said, "My father just died." And she says, "How do you know? If your father died, your brother would have called." And then the phone rang, and my brother, I said, "Yeah." I said, "Frank, I know Dad's dead." And he's like, "How do you know?" And I said, "He just came by to say goodbye." And when I told him, he was like, "Oh, Al, you're getting like mommy." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're freaking me. And then I felt so good afterwards that I went to both house parties.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and it's just like it was his way of saying, "Go, you know, enjoy yourself. It's New Year's Eve. I'm okay." You know, that was the only thing I've ever really seen. You know, I mean, as far as a premonition, a vision, you know, stuff like that I would call a vision.
Yeah, that's pretty damn gnarly experience, and to have to, you know, encounter that and see that, and like you said, you know, to be someone that close to you too had to be, you know, not easy, but you know, kind of just.
It made me, Tom. It made me feel good because
right?
When I seen him, like cancer had eaten him. My father was like a middleweight boxer. Okay, he was built like Marvin Hagler because he worked construction as well. And when cancer ate him up, he was like, you know, 90 pounds soaking wet. And in my mind's eye, when I seen him, and he was back to his young, healthy self, and he was like, you know, waving goodbye, and I was leaving. It should have been him leaving, but it was me leaving, you know. But
he was like Anakin Skywalker instead of Darth Vader. Now you're Luke Skywalker looking at him, you know, with Obi-Wan and Yoda at the, you know, Return of the Jedi at the end, right?
But I felt so much better after that, you know. That I told my wife, "Get dressed. We're going to both parties." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" So we're going to both parties. I feel great, you know, and I felt like I was wired after that. And then we ended up hitting both parties that night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.
I'm glad I was able to bring a little something to the table tonight. You know what I mean? And
I'm glad you got to do a little paranormal talk and some, you know, negative energy cleansing, because I don't really do a whole lot of that, and I've been not focusing, but a lot of my, you know, my streams have been, you know, cryptid related, and I try to keep it, you know, change it up a little bit because it's not all about cryptids, it's paranormal as well. So maybe next time we'll have some UFOs, you know, research.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got some stuff coming up in October and November. You know what I mean? Hopefully, there'll be they'll be exciting, and we could talk about them. I could talk about it.
You're not going to be on TV anytime soon, are you? Warn me about Discovery Plus. With
not that I know of. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? We've done so many documentaries. So many documentaries, and they're always, for some reason, they're always about UFOs. But there's never a working title going in, so you don't know what the hell it's going to be called, and you never really know when it's going to show up. No one calls you or sends you an email,
right?
Oh yeah, you have to sign a contract. Yeah, but they don't tell you like, hey, look, it's going to come out in October. It's just like it just comes on, and if you see it, you see it, and if you don't, you don't. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like I said, it's like everybody always asks, well, what'd you do? What you do? I don't know what I did because there's never a working title. They never have a working title, Yeah. So it is what it is,
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, Al, I do appreciate you filling in tonight for
my pleasure. Anytime for you, that.
You're my Goomba. You always help me out, so I appreciate that. But once I drop this chat, you can just sign off and go out your studio because I'm gonna clean mine up too. So
yeah, I gotta clean mine.
Night
down. I gotta break mine down too. Okay. All right, Tom. I'll talk to you later.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good night, everybody.